Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Right. So it seems that we've got everyone here who's going to attend. Once again, thank you so much for going and joining me on this. Well, I certainly hope it's either going to be a nice day or has been a nice day wherever you are. Um, Certainly, it's windy and slightly cloudy here in Cape Town, but what can you do? So, all right, I'm going to share my screen in a minute. But before I dive into that, guys, if there are any questions from last week, from well, not last week, we were doing this last week, from yesterday, I believe are the words I'm looking for. If there's any questions from yesterday that you have, I'll give you a minute or two just to go write them up in the box. But otherwise, we are going to go and dive forward into the mysteries of the management console and how that goes and works with the rest of the iVend pods that we were dealing with yesterday. Okay, so let me go and just bring up my screen and we can start having a look at this. Okay, guys, can you just put your hands up if you can see my screen? Okay, I'm seeing at least 1, 2, okay, right there. You do realize, guys, this is also an excellent way for me to go figure out who is actually going and listening. All right, yeah, thanks, Frank. Oh, nice to see you here, Frank. Okay, cool. So, all right, I'm just going to put your hands down. Thank you very much. Okay, and we do have the first question of the day, which is what is the scale we can deploy for iVend? The scale that you can deploy is it's an OPOS connected device. Once again, you'll see this a bit later with just about everything we do. If in doubt, OPOS, with good reason because, hey, OPOS. It's like I said yesterday, it's a universal standard. Everyone uses it. The only, well, please have a look at yesterday's stuff if that's available. It should be available online. If it's not, I will have a word with them. But basically, guys, the only time that we've got issues with OPOS is typically some of the things that come out of off-brand or non-branded places. Sometimes that can prove to be a bit tricky. But if you're running Bixalon or, well, things like Bixalon or, well, basically any Bixalon, Epson, a couple of others, those ones are pretty good, and they're pretty solid in their OPOS drivers and how they work. But yes, the scales do use that, as well as I also believe there's signature pads that you can use for that, believe it or not. Okay, can you deploy in a single till environment? Check the hardware and software guide. It's the same thing. If it's a single till environment, then yeah, you're still going to need to connect it through to OPOS. Single till, multiple single till. Well, you're always going to have one scale connected to one till. So, all right. So moving on now, back to my favorite slide that everyone should know about and have memorized by now, because we're going to go through this again and again and again. Guys, once again, if you have an actual question, please go type it in the question. Please type it in the question box. Don't put up your hands. So let me see who's got their hands up. Okay. So I'll just put your hand down now for the moment. If you've got a question, just type it. Okay, right there. Here we go. From Chana asking, the iVend e-commerce is at end of life, and how does iVend work with e-commerce? Yes, we did actually. We briefly breathed over this yesterday to go and actually say what the to go and actually just discuss what was going on with it. The iVend e-commerce itself, yes, is at end of life. It's to be honest, we don't have that many sites that it's deployed on. And it works very well for us because, and if you want, you can still actually go see it. Actually, I think it's still working over here. If you go to demo.ivendecommerce.com, this is our demo version of the e-commerce website. But, and you can just, sort of poke around and see what's there. If you load up the if you load up the actual demo stack, it will come, well, at least the 656 demo stack, it will come preloaded with its own version of it. It does actually work pretty well with and even got video that's associated with it. It does actually work pretty well with for what it does. It's a reasonable e-commerce. Our problem with it is that there are just better e-commerce options out there that are, and when I say better, I don't mean that this is necessarily bad. It's just that the ones out there are changing in the environment very, very quickly. So it's far easier to go and you can see I'm running this from my local host, which is why it's a bit slow. There are far better, there are other options out there, and a lot of people already have their e-commerce site set up. There are other options. There's bigger partner ecosystems. That's kind of why we're really stepping away from iVend e-commerce and we're integrating through to Magento. It's not that it's a bad product. It's not that this is a bad product. It's fine. It does what it says on the tin. It's a good e-commerce. But it's just that we feel instead of us going and pouring extra money into duplicating what is already there for other systems, we'd rather be able to go and just integrate through their system and bring it in, and bring that functionality across to us. So, all right. So I hope that answers your question on e-commerce. If there are any others, I will be happy to go take them. And yeah, feel free. There it is, demo.ivendecommerce.com. You can go and poke around on it, and you'll see it's a demo site. Do not perform transactions. If you want to just go and poke around and see what it's like or what it was like, we're not. There's a lot of functionality in here that is really, really, really good. And the nice thing is that it was all integrated through to us. But then again, we have other integrations through to other things. Okay, right. Next one from Ian. Can iVend work offline? And yes, for how long? You've stumbled across a slightly complex question that I will return to my favorite slide to explain. Okay, the short answer is depends what you mean by offline. So now we have, because yes, once again, iVend, flexible, scalable, we have options for this. Now, if, for instance, the internet goes down, which, yes, then that means that the store itself is working offline. You can carry, that's normal. That is what we would consider normal offline functionality. The other one, okay, I'll come to your question in a second, Chana. The other one that you can do is you can actually have the iVend POS work offline. We did have this functionality in 6.5, but to be honest, it didn't work. It worked, but there were things. We've relooked at it, we've redone it, and in 6.6 we believe that we've got it working really nicely, and that means that you can actually have the iVend POS work without even having, say, the LAN over there. So if there's no LAN connection, you can have the iVend POS work offline as well. So yes, there's a number of redundancies when it comes to offline, and yes, we can work offline. The next question is the question that's coming thick and fast today. Next one is, does iVend work with table management like restaurant? Yeah, the short answer is yes. We do actually have an add-on for restaurants that you can use. So there is a full table management booking system, the whole thing that it does work with. It is, however, that is like the optical add-on. That's not the scope of what we're doing in this training. So I won't be going over it. There are videos online to go and actually have a look over it. So I'd suggest going and having a look at those. Once again, guys, this training is just a supplement and try and draw things together for iVend and also with the CKP. I am expecting you guys to look both at the CKP, this, and then also go to the CKP as well, because that will go and just tie everything together nicely. Okay. All right, so now that we've gone and we've covered most of that, yeah, if there are any other questions, just keep them coming. Yeah, of course, like I said yesterday, it's a great way for me to know that you guys are actually still there and listening. So I'm just going to go switch across to the iVend Management Console, right, with the Rubik's Cube of Doom that goes and opens and closes on it over here. or I suppose I should call it the Rubik's Cube of retail. So we can go click on that, and it goes and it pops up, and it says you've got to put in your username and password. And guys, I do highly recommend you go and you load up the iVend demo stack on your machines. Really, I've seen so many times that I get calls from people, Keith, how do I do this? Well, go to your demo stack and it shows you how to do this. Or, well, I don't have demo stack loaded on my machine. Well, load up demo stack, then go and do it, is going to be my reply. So get demo stack. Trust me, get demo stack. It actually does have, it is very helpful to have it there. You can go say, oh, click, click. Oh, that's how that works. Next thing over here. So here is the iVend management console. Now, your one, when it loads up, will probably not have QuickBooks integration because that's something that I'm testing at the moment. We also, yeah, there's news and stuff that's going on around that. So pretend you didn't see that. All right, so next up is let's go start having a look through the initial setup and how everything works. Now, yesterday I went and I told you how to access the help, and that is remember, Control F1. Control F1. It will save your life, because also that's half the other calls I get. Keith, what does this do? Okay, well, go Control F1 and it will tell you exactly what it does. Well, I don't have demo stack loaded. Okay, load demo stack. Once you've done that, go Control F1 and it will help you. So, all right. Once you've got demo stack, it does actually give you an idea about what most of these fields and things do. And then if you still don't have an idea, that's when you can contact guys like me. All right, so over here, so this over here is the iVend management console, and you'll see that it is a separate system to the point of sale, and that is quite deliberate. So, having said the entire idea with the separate system over here is that at certain points you might want to have a store manager station, at certain points you want to have a iVend POS. And certain people, like cashiers, may not necessarily need access to the full functionality of the store manager management console. They might just need to have, access to the POS. And that's purely because of what they do. As a cashier, you just need to go and scan people's stuff, take their money, put it in the till, repeat. And cash out at the end of the day. There are some minor other things, but the primary thing is scan the stuff, take the money, repeat. Whereas at the store manager station, you have other things that you need to go that you might need to go sort out, and these things can be stuff such as end of day, promotions, any sort of security roles, security users, how exactly they go fit together, who can do what, who can't do what. All of that is stuff that can happen over here at the store manager station. And that is things that we do that you'd need to be aware of. And that is why we have gone and separated out into two separate systems here. So the first thing that's going to happen, and in fact, even before we get to the enterprise setup, because this is the first screen that iVend loads into when you load iVend. So let's go and have a look at what happens just before you go and you load iVend, because there you get one of the first screens about actually installing stuff. Now, I know it says iVend Retail 6.4, but I can guarantee you it hasn't changed for 6.5 and it hasn't changed for 6.6 either. I know, I've checked. You can trust me. And that is what I generally go to as the custom installation screen. Now, I'm kind of old school in it. I like to see exactly what components are being installed. I don't trust, and this is not a remark on our installer or anything else like that. It's just that is my knee-jerk reaction for every installer out there, because I've had too many times where I've loaded up something and, oh wait, it forgot this component, or oh wait, by the way, it's loaded up an extra web browser, or if anyone can remember the old Internet Explorer search bars that they used to load up, oh man, I hated those things because another story we'll get to another time. because I've seen too many Internet Explorer browsers with 15 or 16 different search bars because some dear old lady decided, oh no, but my nephew said I must load this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I also said I'd check half those things because they're all going and make your computer crawl to a halt. So that's why I like to go down and I like to go find out exactly what I'm installing. And there are some very important things that you need to note on this installation screen. And the first one is checkbox for enterprise server. Okay. And in fact, even before that, I would like to go point out is that when you are installing iVend, you will typically, you would actually never check all these boxes. And that might sound weird, but that is pretty much the truth because they are, and we'll go, as we go into each of these, I will explain why. So the first one is over here, the enterprise server. Right, that over there is, that is the one that you will install at the head office. So that is what is installed over here at the main enterprise. That is, that's the one that you're going to install first time round. Generally, enterprise server, if you are a SAP Business One partner, you will tick this when you install enterprise server. If you are not a SAP Business One partner, you will not tick this when you install enterprise server. If you are one of those, if you are Sage or Microsoft or any one of the others, yeah, obviously when you don't tick that, you will need there will be a separate installer you will need to run to go and install the integration service for your ERP. Please be aware and please follow the installation instructions there. It will tell you what to do. If you need to do things like reserving code units, if you need to do things like additional setup in your ERP, to do that. And by the way, guys, even if you are a SAP Business One partner and you do tick that, there is still additional setups you need to run in SAP Business One. Once again, I'm not going into that because I've got to go and because everybody, because not everyone has a SAP Business One partner. There are videos online for all of them. So there's videos online for Sage 300, X3, as well as SAP Business One, as well as I think there's one for ECC6, though that's a bit different, and there's ones for NAV or BC as it's now called. Yes, so we, as you have guessed, we like to give you videos. We like to give you access to everything because that way when you call us, you can go say, Keith, I have this problem with blah, and I can go say, aha, Alex, go over here and have a look at this, and you'll be sorted, and you'll say, okay. Or, Keith, I have this problem. Okay, now that's an issue. Right, let's work through it and see how we can fix it. As opposed to you going and saying, Keith, I have this issue. Don't you know how to go and fix these? Yeah, well, nobody knows how to fix it because it's not documented. With us, everything is documented. You have options. You can go and actually sort out where things are. That makes it far easier for you to solve your own problems, right? And to go and empower you to do it. Next one up is the store server. Now, the store server over here is, the store server typically is not installed with the enterprise server. If you have a situation, yesterday I talked about a situation where you can have a store server, well, that didn't work so well. You can have a store server and an enterprise server. Actually, let's go over there. So you can have a store server and an enterprise server on the same machine. You can have that situation. In fact, in really small stores, you would actually have a situation where you've got, say, the POS, the store server, and the management console all on the same machine. That's fine. You can do that. It's just that at this particular point, you would then just take enterprise server and you would not take store server. To go and activate store server, you would go and check that in the, to go activate store server, you would only do that checkbox when you're installing, say, store 2 in that case. If you're doing a setup like this where you've got an enterprise server in a separate store, then you install the enterprise over here, and when you go to the store, you install the store over there. Relatively simple. Next up is one I always recommend just check it because there's not a lot of overhead. It uses mainly Microsoft products, and quite frankly, just check it now, and I just always install it because it just makes sense. Particularly when I'm doing a store server or an enterprise server, I always tick iVend API Web Report Viewer. And there is another reason that I always check it, and that is because there is no way to go and run on on a fair number of software platforms. You can just go and rerun the installer and say modify the installation. That is not available for us. If you want to go, so for instance, if I accidentally unchecked iVend API or Web Report Viewer and I did the install and then later on I said, oh no, they want that, then I have to go back and check it. You would actually need to go and uninstall iVend and then reinstall iVend. So rather to avoid that, just install it and you can leave it running there in the background. But really there's very little there's very little overhead. Like I said, it's all Microsoft components, and once it's there, it's there. And trust me, specifically with any time you're doing an integration, anytime you're doing replication, we're using APIs more and more. So just install it and get over and done with. Right, it's just easier. Customer loyalty portal, well, you know, if you want to, you can, but that's up to you. We do actually have a separate loyalty portal that is not the e-commerce. So if this is the e-commerce over here, then if I go across, you also have a separate customer loyalty portal if you want. That is something else that we built. Yeah, if we've got time, we'll go through it, but otherwise, not really. Then afterwards, services. Now, services you cannot install if you've got anything else checked. And that might sound rather weird, but there is method to the madness. So services is used for what we would term a pass-through integration. It's generally used on larger sites where you want to go and manage your traffic between multiple servers. So we've got a question. Okay, Ian, I'll come back to that in a second. Okay, so essentially with services is if you're going and you're using is if you wanted to go and have multiple machines going and integrating in. This is typically something that happens in larger sites. You know, if you're looking at, I would say basically beyond 50 stores, 50, 100, 200 stores, anywhere up to like 1,000 stores. What then the problem is that you start running into hard. Quite frankly, the internet is having a single line into your enterprise server is just not going to cut it. You are going to need to have multiple lines into your enterprise server, multiple data processing points. That essentially means that you would need to have multiple little servers going and handling the data flow coming in from each of your individual stores, and then those can go and accumulate it to go put into your enterprise server. Now, that is something that we generally, once you get to an installation of that size, we'll probably be involved, and so we will probably help you with that. So, but for the rest of the time, just leave services unchecked. And this does not mean that iVend doesn't install services. If I check enterprise server, it will install the services that are for the enterprise. If I check store server, it will do that. Same thing with Business One, same thing with API. It installs everything. You don't need the services thing is only if you want to install just services. That's it, which is something that you would not really have to deal with. Now, we did actually have a question earlier from, here we go. Is it possible to install 2 enterprise servers at the same machine? And effectively, no. Okay. However, we are multi-tenanted, so it does mean that yes, you don't effectively have to install twice to go get everything installed correctly. What you actually would happen is you'd install enterprise server, and then we've got tools that will go and create additional services, additional environments to go and actually run iVend in if you are multi-tenanted. So that's the way that we essentially go about it. Right. Finally, we get client options, which is management console and point of sale. Now, once again, my default for this is just install both of them. So the reason for that being, to be very honest, is you can manage how people access what through licensing. And that's basically the reason I say install just as much as you can on these things, because you can manage most of this through licensing. And that's the way I find it's easiest. So install it and manage it through licensing, rather than having to go say, oh, hang on, wait a minute, now we need to go to the store and, oh no, they don't have iVend API, so we need to uninstall the store server to go and install the API, but it's midday and during their rush hour, so no, now we need to sit around for 2 hours for the store to go be quiet. And yeah. And in case you're wondering, yeah, that has happened to me a couple of times. So my default thing, install Management Console and POS. Even when it's enterprise server, I always by default do that, because the big thing is when you are working on a machine and you make a change. So let's say I'm working in Management Console and I make a change over here to, let's go through to, we're going to come back to the layouts. Let's go say I make a change over here to the actual layout of the screen. Okay. If I don't have point of sale installed on the same machine, I'm going to need to then have a team viewer session or something next to, or be sitting next to the other machine to go and refresh and see what's going on there. Rather, if I've got it all installed on one machine, I can go make the change, switch across to the POS, check that it works, do whatever I need, come back, unassign the license to the POS and assign it to the correct place. It makes it, like I said, it's far easier to control through licensing than it is to control through, than it is to actually go and control through the installations. So that is my personal feeling about it. Okay, so basically my recommendation is add enterprise right there. If you need business one, tick that. Otherwise, always tick API and customer loyalty portal, ad management console, and point of sale. That is for the enterprise over here. Otherwise, if you are at the store, so if you are over here, then what you do is you go and you check store server, API, and management console and point of sale. Those are my recommendations for installation. Just do it. It's far easier than having to go faff around with uninstalling and reinstalling stuff. All right. Okay, so now that we've talked about the installation process, let's actually go back to where we were looking at over here. And right, we can get across to system initialization enterprise. Now, enterprise is the spot that iVend's immediately going to boot into the first time you run it. So when you first run it at enterprise, it's going to go into the screen. And this is where you do your initial settings and initial setups to actually get everything integrated through. Company name, well, yeah, you guys should. If you guys don't know what that is, you need to go back and start talking to people at that place. Email, yep, you can stick that in there. Address, and the reason that we have this over here is so that you can easily load it onto things like print layouts. So you can just go say, okay, I want the company email address. Okay, I want the company name. Okay, I want the company address. And in the company address, if you scroll down, you will see that we've got this general address screen, which has got things like, and if you go and drill down into that, you'll go and you'll see that we've got a whole range of stuff for contact, including gender right there, because we are modern and progressive. And if you really choose that, if you really choose Your Majesty for your gender, well, you can do that as well, right there. I would suggest going and checking yourself into. I would suggest that white coats will probably be around to go and take you to the nice padded cell. But hey, people do that these days. Still, you can load up your address lines, your cities, your zip codes, countries, counties, please. And remember, guys, country. Okay, countries are actually preloaded in the system, so you shouldn't have too much problem with that. Phone numbers, fax numbers, and I'm sure you can read the rest of it. I'm not going to bother, even down to global positioning, even down to GPS number coordinates if you want to go stick that in. Yep, you can do it if you want. Up to you. Though generally you wouldn't necessarily associate that with the head office. However, we now get down to two very important settings that you must take that really, guys, I cannot explain to you how important this is. Okay. The ERP system type and location type. You get one shot to go set these. And that is when you first fire up iVend. If you get these wrong, then you've got two options. One, the first option, which I'd recommend, is trash the database and start again. Because technically, before you open this up, you should take a backup. Or two, call support and beg that they go and they will help you fix it. And then afterwards, you're going to have a fight with accounts that, oh no, yes, you did fix it, but now it's actually going to cost you money. So somebody needs to pay something. So yes, there is that. Yeah. Okay. So do yourself a favor, make a backup before this starts. Next thing. Okay. So it's ERP system type. That's localization type. Next thing is the sales and tax codes. Well, okay. Before I get down to sales and tax codes, ERP system type up here. Let's go a bit more into this. This is actually going to have a couple more settings to it. Hang on, I do have a question. Okay, for localization type, there is no Cambodia. There is, I do realize that the localizations, I think we've got about 70 of them, and those do not cover everywhere worldwide. What I would suggest, for instance, I don't remember if there's a Kenya either. So what I would recommend is select the nearest localization that is similar to yours. So if it's Cambodia, if Vietnam's available, I would go with that. I certainly know out here in Africa, typically we go with the UK localization because that's pretty similar to what everyone uses. Well, UK or South Africa, depending where in Africa you are. Those are the options for localization. You do have options later on to actually go and change certain aspects of the localization to how you want it to be. Okay. The use of the localization is to actually go and set, for instance, your time. So how times and dates are displayed, currencies, other things like that. I'll show you in a couple of minutes where we go and we actually set those. But for now, I just want to head back to ERP system type. Now, ERP system type is where we actually set how we are if we are integrated and how we integrate it through to other systems. Now, there will be there is an option over here, I think, for no system, which iVend will not allow you to select. You actually need to go and do the drop down and select which one you are. Is it going to be unplugged, like I'm running at the moment? I am not plugged into any other systems, not even QuickBooks, at least not at the moment. But the big thing is that iVend unplugged over here is just completely standalone by itself. That's it. The other ones over there, you will see drop downs. There's SAP Business One. I believe there's nav/BC. I believe there's also another one called Others with API. Which most of the Sage ones fall under, but there are various options and you need to select the right one. That will be referenced in the installation and setup documents for your ERP. So select that over there and it will tell you which one to do. Localization type, we discussed. Sales and purchase tax code. Now, typically with your sales and tax codes, we do know that there are ones that will come across from the ERP into iVend. And yeah, we are aware that as well, how it comes across is very important. Now for, I believe, SAP and BC, it will automatically pull, part of the initialization of it is you do all your iVend setups in SAP and BC, and then those automatically pull through. I believe with Sage at the moment, having a bit of issue with that, you need to go and set them up. But then you might also need to go create a do not use tax code over here for it to go pull through at least on the first time. But you can go and load up your various tax criteria. If you, like I said, if you're integrated, it will pull them through. If not, you need to go set them up. Not that they are particularly, difficult to go and actually set up. If you've ever set up tax codes before, you'll know how to do it. Are they exempt? Do you want to put them on item cost? It says over here tax type both. That means is it an input and an output tax, or is it just an input tax? And then do you load it on item cost, and we'll come to subsidiaries and what they do later. Finally, you can also load up different details. So what is your start date and what is the tax rate associated with that date? For instance, in South Africa, we've recently raised our VAT from 14 to 15%, which, yeah, is up there. It's not as bad as UK's, which I think is sitting at 20% at the moment. But yeah, taxes very rarely, if they ever go down. 9 times out of 10, they go up. So lots of fun on that. Lots of fun for everyone. And you can also say whether it goes on surcharges. Okay. Ian asked, does geographical location hinder the performance of the enterprise server to the store server? Excellent question. Okay, so we've just been talking about tax. I need to go change that back to exempt. But we will come back to tax in a second. I do want to go point out that effectively no. It depends. I think the question that you're actually asking, Ian, is what is minimum internet speed? Which typically at the moment is sitting at approximately. I didn't understand. Go away, Bixby. Typically at the moment, internet speed that we're looking at is between 2 and 4 megs a second. That's 2 megs is really the bottom of the barrel. We prefer about 4 megs. That's really where it's at. I do realize this is Africa, and 2 megs can be expensive, but well, certainly in certain places that I've been to, but certainly it is falling into the more affordable ranges at the moment. So long as you've got a reasonable internet speed, then you have to remember that the speed between the store and the enterprise is not really a straight line. It's bouncing around the place anyway. So at the end of the day, geographical location doesn't really affect the speed too much. I mean, if, for instance, you had the server in, say, you had the enterprise in North America and the store server in, I don't know, we'll go with South Africa out here. In fact, no, I've actually implemented places. One of our customers, Vodafone, they had their servers on the Amazon cloud in Ireland, and they were in their stores in Vodafone Zambia, and they were not experiencing appreciable speed. I know that they're an internet company, and I know there's other mitigating factors, but at the end of the day, no, there wasn't any appreciable speed difference that we noticed. And that's, by the way, also the reason that we call it a near real-time system, not a real-time system. Okay. Afterwards, VAT number, or if I go and I make my little right click and go choose caption, you'll see it actually was originally federal tax ID. If that is something that you need, you can put that there. Next up is retail profile. Retail profile, there's a default profile that gets loaded when you initialize the system. I would suggest that at this stage you just select the default profile. If you want to go mess around with it, you can do that later. But for the moment, the default retail profile will do. We will have a look at that hopefully a little bit later today. Allow negative inventory. This is always a big bugbear for a lot of places. Now, a lot of settings do go and integrate between iVend and the ERP. And this is not one of them. You can technically choose to run iVend as a negative stock system and the ERP as a positive stock system. I've actually very rarely seen that. In most places, they just say, we do not run negative stock. The biggest problem with negative stock is that your stock and your accounts never match. I've yet to see it in just about any place I've ever been to. So like I said, you can have iVend and negative stock and the ERP and positive stock. Most places don't. There are other options for negative stock we can go into that we'll get to a bit later when we hit the warehouse. Finally, culture info, which is not necessarily the same as the localization type. Culture info is slightly different. But like I said, we have all sorts, as you can see, everywhere, everything from Afrikaans in South Africa, all the way down to, hey, Zulu in South Africa as well, and also right there, but which, yeah, I do know how to speak a bit of Zulu, so yeah, we can talk about that a bit later. But there is all sorts over here. This culture info combined with this localization type typically go, and they combine together to go and form what your settings and prices, and do you use a comma, do you use a full stop for decimals and those sort of things. That's all set over there. We come to that, I think, over here in system display settings. Afterwards, there are a batch of settings that I'm going to try and go through as quickly as possible because most of them you should know what they are. Well, you should know how they work anyway. There's check credit limits, so do a sale, check credit limits. Show product by vendor. So if I select my vendor, it's going to show his products that is associated with him. Allow price change when your goods receipting something. Do you want to? Do you want it hidden or do you want it read only? Those are available. Pricing resolution. Resolve to lowest price, resolve to highest price. At the moment, generally, I leave it as none. The pricing resolution comes in more when we get to the actual price lists and how you calculate which price list applies to which store and to which business partner at which date at which time. But for the moment, I generally leave that as none. That means that it just uses the default order. If you change this, it can mean that your prices don't, it can mean that it's slightly difficult to go and figure out how your prices work. But apply sales discount on transaction total after tax. Guys, if some of these settings don't make sense to you, it's because we do work in places where they do make sense to those people. I am going to warn you on that. So sometimes there are settings you go, why on earth would you do that? Specifically for things like tax. And this over here is, this is not the way it's calculated in most places, but in other places it is. So it's up to you. Next question is, okay, China, does iVend work with tax on tax? There are ways we can work with it. Generally, that's a tax and then a surcharge that we put on it. That's also a tax. If you want to speak more about that, Frank might be the person to go speak to. He will probably have examples of that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see exactly what you mean over there for Cambodia. There's a tax on something, and okay, so you've got a 3% tax and a 10% tax on top of it. Yeah, so you got a special tax and a tax. We can work with it. It's just your setups are slightly different. We will get to that, and I'll show you some of the tricks that we can use for that a bit later. In my part of the world, we don't really end up with that, but there are options for it. So, as well as also, I believe in 6.6 we have improved the tax engine, so or the tax resolution setup, which is also something that to go and specifically cater for things like that, as well as also integrations through to different ERP systems. Okay. All right. Yeah, sure. Guys, please remember, if I do, I know you are asking these, and I say that we will get to them later, but if I don't get to them, please remind me, because I do have a list, but I also have to hit my speaking points. So if we don't get to those things necessarily, then just bear with me, and we'll try and keep it going as quickly as possible. Okay, here we go. Support multiple transaction type mode. That checkbox over there is what I was talking about yesterday. So, for instance, I can go and have a sale for a specific item. At the same time, I can also go and have a refund for another item. Okay, that is multiple transaction type. If you don't want that, you can actually turn that off. Some places do not want that. Multiple salesperson per transaction item, if you want that. Some places I find typically in IT stores, well, IT and high-end goods, so things like jewelries and furniture as well, it does happen where you might have 2 or 3 salespeople helping you on one sale, so or on one item, in which case it gets split. We can handle that. That's there. Open sales attributes automatically. We can load on certain things such as sales attributes over here, collect attributes. The sales attributes that you can put in here go and they are like additional user-defined fields that you can put onto the actual sale. You can have that open automatically if you want, using that checkbox. If you don't want it, then you can uncheck it. Or as you can see, I don't have any sales attributes, so that won't open automatically. Collect entire sales order amount in advance? Yes, no. Yeah, so with a sales order, you can force that they do an entire prepayment for that. We do also have plans in the works that you can say, okay, you need to, the standard across the company is say 50%. So 50% deposit or 20% deposit, or otherwise you can even go down to an item level and say, on this item, it's a 50% deposit. On that item, it's a 30% deposit. So we do have plans for those in the works. Okay, guys, remember, if you put up your hand, please rather just go and type the question. Okay, there. Can iVend work in a manufacturing company? From Louise, no. Now, well, okay. To be clear on that, Louise, typically manufacturing we'd leave to the ERP, whereas we are focused on retail. So the short answer is not really. If it's light manufacturing, we could probably do something, but I would not like to go and actually run iVend for manufacturing. It's not what we focus on. Nunergy, is item attribute like set items? Yes, you can. Yeah, so we'll come to item attributes a bit later. I am going to be saying that quite a bit in this beginning part because we are actually going to be coming to these things a bit later. So we'll have a look at it. It's essentially being able to go load up additional values on the actual sale itself. Okay. Nunergy, if you can maybe expand on that question. I think then we can, okay, so if you buy a trial, so you can, typically we wouldn't use item attributes for that, we'd rather use things like promotions. And I'll show you how to do that once, probably not today, tomorrow or Thursday, depending on how things go. Okay, so, right. All right, so, okay, questions are coming thick and fast today. All right, no problem, Nunergy, we'll chat then. Okay, so multiple salespeople, open that, and collect sales, and yep, done that. Gift certificate, yes, you can go and use gift certificates to go and sell and buy something in the same transaction. That might be the case, you might want to do that. So for instance, and this is not as daft as it seems, there are actual places where that can be necessary. The reason for that is that, for instance, if I get a free gift, so for instance, I'll buy $100 worth of stuff, get a free gift certificate, I could actually buy $100 worth of stuff and then use that free gift certificate against the sale I'm getting the gift certificate at. That's also kind of things like coupons that you can get to. But once again, if it seems like a daft idea, trust me, there's a use case for it out there somewhere that we've had to make that function for. Improve iVend by sending anonymous usage data. I have no idea what the anonymous usage data is. I have no idea who sees it, and I have no idea what it does. But you can check it if you want. Otherwise, you can uncheck it if you do not want it. Automatically select serial and batch numbers. So how do you select serial and batch numbers? Do you select your oldest, well, the one with the nearest expiry date, or do you go lowest price, highest price on creation date? And if only one available, then it will automatically just select that item. Otherwise, manually, which is what I normally leave it at. Allow user-defined product ID. So typically with iVend, you will see over here, you actually have to create a custom series for your product ID, where you're going to put in a prefix, a start number, and a length. So if I go to create a new item, you'll see that it automatically goes and creates an item code for it. That's standard in iVend, though typically, and that's how we set that here. But typically, you can, if you want, allow user-defined product IDs. That's only, if you do this, then that means that you can only create your products at the iVend Enterprise server. Okay, it will not allow you to create products at the store for very good reasons. Yeah, but because otherwise you could end up, because otherwise then two stores could end up creating the same product number, and that will cause a database lock. So we don't want to do that, but it basically means that only the enterprise can create it. If you still want to go create your own user-defined product codes in the ERP, that's fine. We don't mind that. The big thing is that that's then governed by the integration, so that comes to the enterprise server, and we just farm it out down to the stores. That's the way it works. It's created in one. The big thing is that it needs to be created in one place, not created in multiple places where you get options for database locks on it. So we avoid that. Partial receiving of inventory. So can I do a partial goods receipt, full goods receipt, whatever the case is. Replication batch size. You can change this if you want, but rather leave it at 5,000. Yeah, we'll come to replication in a minute and integration. There are some setups that we can do over there. Well, there are some setups we look at. But essentially, this dictates the size of the info that's being sent from the store to the enterprise and from the enterprise to the store. So it's effectively going and saying how much info goes from there to here and how much from here to there. Now, there are valid reasons for leaving it at 5,000. That's what works. We've done tests on it, and that's what seems to work best. If you're using a test environment, you can make it lower. You could say take it down to 50 just for a test environment. If you do that at a store, you are going to increase your processing time because there's of the massive amounts of data. Trust me, leave it at 5,000 in production environments. Right, allow add items in, okay, so if you want to do a goods return, can you add items into it? Can you backdate the end of day process? Just to explain there, that's if you want to go and just put a whole batch of items into a goods return against a specific goods GRPO, goods receipt. Backdate your end of day process. You can do that if you want. So for instance, I might want to go say, okay, I maybe want to end a day process at a prior time. You can choose whether you want that or not. But otherwise, no. Allow duplicate barcode on products. Yeah, okay. To be very honest, barcodes is a bit of can be a bit of an issue because there is actually a place you can go buy barcodes online. It's a World Barcode Council or something like that they have where all barcodes are kept. And so, for instance, you shouldn't have a barcode that goes. You shouldn't really be able to scan an item and then have a duplicate barcode conflict. However, not everybody goes and subscribes to the barcodes or whatever it is. They instead just go and create their own barcodes and throw it out there. Yeah, it's up to you. You might need to, it's one of these things, yes, in some cases you are going to need to check it, in other cases not. Expiry dates for batch items and serial items, are they required? If you're doing things like pharmacy or chemicals, then yes, you will need those. Otherwise, probably not. Use advanced authorization. I'm going to go through advanced authorization a bit later when we get down to authorizations over here. Allow over-receiving GRPO, allow over-receiving. Yes, you can do that, and yes, you can turn it off as well if you want. Please remember, these are just enterprise settings. You could turn it on here and then stop people doing it later on. There are options further down the line. Okay, inventory merge count setting. If you have, the idea behind this is if you have multiple stock counts that maybe happen over a couple of days, you can go and merge all those together at a specific date, either say current date, earliest date, or latest date, and then it will go say, okay, even though you took the stock count maybe a day ago for a certain area, that area, nobody's been in that area since then, we can just go say, okay, we're going to take that stock count as the present stock count for that area when we start again. That's if you want to do it, it's up to you. If you want to merge your stock counts, some people don't do it, some people do it. Enable locations. Yeah, once you enable locations are on. You can't turn them off. Enable log replication. You can do this. This is essentially to go get your SQL logs replicated up to the enterprise from the store. It's up to you. It is a bit more overhead. I don't necessarily recommend it, but once again, it depends on the place that you're at and their recommendations and what they want. So allow zero-priced items. So some places you are not allowed to have a zero-priced item. That's company policy. Other places you can, in which case you tick that and off you go. And update inventory status within the store group. We'll come to store groups a bit later and I'll explain exactly how the inventory status works there. Right, next question. Louis, guys, if you are, it does seem that some people are having issues with connection, specifically in the West Africa region. I don't know why. We don't seem to be getting that for anybody else. Sorry, guys. If that's the case, that's the case. There's not really that much I can do about it beyond suggest maybe try a 3G network or something like that. Okay, inter-store transactions. So what this will allow you to do is, actually I have, well, I'll come back to that. What this allows you to do is it allows you to go and do things like sell from one store and pick up at another. Now, that is actually part of the entire pick and pack click to collect process. And the entire idea behind it is that you can order maybe something at a store like a fairly rare item that people don't normally keep, but then you can go and, but that means that you can order it from central warehousing. They will have it delivered to you. You can also have it say, so I want to buy at one store but pick it up at another. For instance, I had there was one thing that happened recently. I was on holiday, and believe it or not, I actually did need a new fridge, and one of the local chain stores, they had a fantastic deal on for a fridge. And I looked and I said, this is perfect. Too bad I can't buy it. I'm on holiday and I would need it delivered to my house. And they said, no, it's no problem. You can buy it. You know, buy it here and now and we'll deliver it for you. So that's very nice to do. Which unfortunately it does go bring in a batch of accounting implications because which store gets the COM, which store gets the recognition for the sale, which store gets, how does the stock reduction happen, what happens if I return the fridge or if there's an issue with it, how would that work? But unfortunately, to actually just go show this over here is, I know we didn't work through the path to purchase yesterday, but if, for instance, if the store doesn't have your size of, say, a specific t-shirt, single with the inventory, I can have it delivered from another store, is essentially where we're going with it. So it makes it quite nice and easy to actually work with. To actually say, yeah, that's the entire thing, is you want to make the sale, even if it's not necessarily a sale at your store, you still want to have the ability to do it. Next one. Yes, this session is being recorded. Yeah, there was a bit of an issue yesterday. GoToWebinar is changing the way that it's going and uploading these things. It is uploaded, it is there. I just need to go check that it has actually worked and come through correctly. So yes, it will be uploaded and you guys will have access to this. Please remember there are access to this and others at the online at the CKP. Transaction server is actually quite nice. You can actually go activate it. I don't have it activated primarily because I'm running this as a demo setup. The transaction server itself, it allows you to go exchange transaction data between stores. How exactly does the search work? So if I search for something, does it just search locally or does it search locally and in the end? Another question. Nope, sure, no problem. Maximum record returns, right there. How do you need to validate your transaction quantity for refund? Essentially what this does is it allows you to go and say, it allows you to really go and do the transactions from store to store. Otherwise, if this is not ticked, yeah, it's a bit more difficult. It doesn't really work. So if you want this ticked, sure. The nice thing is it's automatically included. Next thing is transaction rollup. Now, a transaction rollup is definitely something that you will probably end up using specifically for high volume environments. Now, what this means is, for instance, what I mean by high volume environments is these are environments where you're doing, you know, hundreds of transactions at a store across multiple stores and multiple places. Now, ERPs are not really designed to have thousands of transactions bombard them every second. They're designed to go and have hundreds, or, well, they're designed to have tens of transactions done in the system every second. Well, that's really their limit. Certainly with your newer ERPs, certainly with the ones that have got better architecture and infrastructure behind them, like X3, like, you know, once you start getting to SAP HANA, once you start getting to BC, they can start to handle the volumes because they've been designed that way to go do it. The problem is that a lot of them aren't. Specifically, a lot of the customers are still might not be up to that latest set of technology. For that, we actually use what's called transaction rollup. Now, what transaction rollup does is it takes a transaction and it will go and combine it together with a batch of other transactions and then put one big transaction into the ERP. When I say combine it, it does not lose the individual detail. Okay, so for instance, if you're doing a lot of cash sales, like for instance, I would be, a lot of cash sales coming in and out. There's no reason for me to go and put every single cash sale in individually. Not necessarily, it's not really there. I don't need to know too much more beyond something was sold with, say, a credit card at this place at this price. The detail is still kept in iVend. Okay, so if you want to know what which credit card transaction did, which sale with a credit card did this item get sold out at this place this time, you can still come back into iVend and still see that. This is purely for when we're going and moving things across to the ERP. Okay, iVend will go and roll up your transactions. It will go put them together. It goes and it puts, say, for instance, it will take all the transactions to the cash customer. It will go say, it will go put all of your individual line items in, so you'll get a huge big line of items being sold within a certain period of time, and it will go say, these items were sold at this place, at this store, at this time, and to make up the total for this, so much was credit card, so much was cash, so much was debit card, so much was whatever. That all gets put into your ERP system. It means that the ERP only has to deal with, say, one big transaction, which it can do. It's typically ERPs can handle that much easier than handling thousands of little transactions going through at the same time. Okay. Beyond that, loyalty, yes or no. So that needs to be checked for loyalty. Subsidiaries, I do have subsidiaries enabled. Depending on how you're integrated through. So depending on your ERP system is going to say whether you can use subsidiaries or not. Typically, the reason for this is that subsidiaries, the reason for this is that subsidiaries are typically handled in the ERP anyway. That's more or less it from our side. If you are using, say, for instance, if you're using Unplugged, then you can put subsidiaries in over here. And yeah, once again, check your local ERP settings to get a better idea of whether that is going to take place, or whether and how that works and how that takes place or not. Finally, assign all customers to a subsidiary, because you might not want to automatically assign all customers to a subsidiary. We'll come to subsidiaries a bit later, but typically they are, but you'll see you can put individual tax codes, you can put individual bits and pieces to them to make sure that they kind of stand alone, but you can also view them together with all that they sell. After that, you can add an enterprise logo, add logo, remove logo. It's up to you. And then finally, we'll come back to the custom series. Like I said, typically we don't want people in iVend creating their own series of stuff. That's why you'll have this over here. So for customer, it starts off with a C. The start number is 1, and it will have a length of 10. What that means is that if I go to customer search and new, you'll see it goes and creates a C with a whole batch of zeros and then a 5 at the end of it. So 8 zeros, I think it should be, but yes. The same thing for vendor, same thing for product. This does need to be set up on a per store basis. Okay. After that, communication settings. Communication settings, yeah, once again, this is a look at once and then walk away. Essentially over here, you're going, you're saying, yes, it is Passbook integrated. What are my APIs? What is the address, typically for your head office? If not, you can also, there are other places you can go set those up. What are your SMTP details? We don't actually have an email server. We would go and use SMTP to go and communicate through another server to go send emails out of the system. So that's up to you. How and exactly what it goes and it sends and how it works. That's up to you and how exactly you want to go set it up. Okay, but we've got the different ports in there, and yes, I do use Gmail for this, and there is a bit of a trick to using Gmail for it, but you can, if you're interested, contact me and I'll direct you how to do that. Messaging, if you are going to use SMSs, you can do that. We integrated across to the 6 SMS gateways that are available. So if you are interested, you can go and have a word. You can have a word with them and see exactly how they go and how to go load it up. But it's relatively simple, and I believe the documentation for it is online. Okay, and we'll get into more of what you can do with SMS a bit later. There's some really cool stuff. Passbook settings. Once you've checked the Passbook integration, you can then go bring up your different Passbook settings. Come on. Yeah, and you can also send a test email if you want to. Okay. Here you go. So there's my Passbook settings. There's my username. There's my password. There's my pass templates. There is my email templates that I'm using. Okay. System display settings. Now, I've touched on this earlier with the when I went and I said your localization and your display settings are here. Yes, you can go and enter them, and you can also say exactly how do you display your date time pattern. How do you display long time, short, month, date, time separators, month, year pattern, negative, positive. That's also why my currency symbol pops up as R for Rand, where, yeah, well, that's us out here in South Africa. Whereas most of the rest of the time for US, it would obviously be dollars. Okay, but that is all that is set. You can set that all over here, and you can change that to how you want it. Yeah, I believe I mentioned this earlier. One of the questions is that this is where you would come to go change your display settings for what you would use select up here in Enterprise. Question, how about multi-currency? Okay, well, we're going to get to multi-currency when we hit financials. So we'll come to that in a minute, Chana. Okay, countries. Yeah, your countries are not really going to change that much. The only thing I know that's changed is that there's now North and South Sudan that I seem to, I'm not sure. Yeah, we only have Sudan over here. We don't have North and South Sudan. So if you wanted to do that, you could. However, if you don't want to do that, then yep, you don't have to. Country, states, well, yeah, that's up to you to load those up. Typically the ones, this is a demo stack, that's why I've got all the US states here. Otherwise, select your provinces, states, whatever it might be for your, wherever you're implementing. Zip codes, if you're using zip codes, you know, really zip codes, yeah, you can add them in if you want. That's more for the US. Otherwise, everywhere else, I don't know too many other places that use zip codes for that. Messages is quite nice, because you can actually go and provide messages to certain people at certain places at certain times. So for instance, users, job code systems, POS, for products, product groups, product sale, and product customers, and sale complete. So if I was, for instance, logging in, I can have something pop up and go say, remember there's a stock count on Tuesday. Upcoming stock count Tuesday the 22nd. Okay, you can put that in, and you can also put it in with start dates and end dates. So that means that you can actually go and have it appear before then and then disappear without you having to come back in and say, oh wait, I remember I need to go take it off. Okay, document number series. Effectively, iVend can actually run without a specific document number series setup. We do have our own internal document numbering series that we do use, but I do believe that for most of the integrations that it does actually need a separate document numbering series. So we go new. And on this one, we're going to be set up typically which store, or you can leave that blank if you want. So which store, or is it for everyone? You can set that there. Is it for a specific point of sale? What is your document type? There is one here called default series, which will default through for all the series. It's not necessarily recommended. It is, right, you should go and have them separate for individual ones, otherwise it looks weird. But as well, if you just set default series, it doesn't actually create it for all of these. There are some of them that it will ask for a document number series. For instance, loyalty adjustment journal, it will ask for a document number series on. So you will need to go create one for that. But otherwise, you can leave it as default for most of them. Prefix, suffix, you can put those in. Start number, end number, start date, end date. Do you want to reset at the end of the day or not? Some places do that, other places do not. It doesn't need an authorization code to use. And what is the description? And is it active or not? And what is the current number? So fairly straightforward stuff. Finally, we get to export configuration package. Now, I hesitate to go show this to you because depending on your location and where you are, you can use this. Not all locations can use the export configuration package. Essentially what this allows you to do is it allows you to go set up the system, work in the system, play in the system, test in the system, get everything right. And then when it comes time to get ready for go live, you can go and export the settings of the system, and it will go and ask me for a place I want to export it to, and it will export all this information out of the system to a configuration package. Then when I set up the new system, I go to Enterprise. I'm just going to go click cancel here. I'd go to Enterprise, and I'd go import settings, and it should import in all the settings, and it should all work. However, there are issues with location. There are also issues with integration with this. So it doesn't necessarily work for your place and area. I would recommend just testing that it works before you go and before you get to the week before you're meant to go live and say, or even worse, the night before you go live and say, oh no, okay, we'll just do the export configuration package. And you do export configuration settings, and then you try and import it in again, and nothing works. And there you're sitting till 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get everything imported in and set up and ready. So test it first. Right, finally exit, because you need some way out of here. But we're not quite there yet. So we're just going to go to application setup. This is also some of the other settings that you can do in here that, well, yeah, we needed some place to stick them. So first thing is search grid definition. Okay, so for instance, if I go through to custom search, this basically, and let's bring that up here, custom search. It basically reflects what columns are over here in my customer search. So I can select where they are. Do they go at the top or do they go at the bottom? At the same time, I can also go to my search grid column definition, where if I go to where's my customer search? There's currency search, there's customer search. I can open this up and I can choose which columns go and appear in my customer search. So which columns do I want here? And it's very simple to go and either add or remove. If I don't want a column, I simply untick it and it goes away. I can also choose if I want to change the caption. So if I don't want it to just say first name is one word, I can actually go put I can go and actually put a space over there if I want. At the same time, if I want to go and add in something from one of the fields over here, go scroll down until I find the right field. Where's customer? There's email. Okay, that email will appear up there. Then I can also choose, do I want email to go up and then have email first or mobile phone? I can go and adjust what the sequence is as well. After that, I've got POS transaction info grid. We don't use this so much anymore. It used to be something that we use. It's a bit of a legacy feature. Essentially what this allows you to do is it allows you to go set up different buttons on the grid. We've got other ways to do this at the moment. You might use this more if you're using the mobile point of sale. where you need to go say, okay, and even then some of the features aren't used, but it will allow you to go set up, say, a specific product with a description. You can put the button in there, and does it display the product image or not, and what color is the button. There are videos online for this. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time because I'm not expecting you guys to really use that this much. Well, use this that much. Report Manager. Now, the Report Manager we are going to, I'm going to quickly have a look at, but typically we are actually going to go and have it, well, typically we are actually going to come and have a look back at this a bit later. But essentially what this is this is a list of all the reports that are in the system. So there's my transaction receipt, for instance, and I can choose to open that up. And it will tell me exactly what sort of report it is. If I want to go edit this, I need to export it, and then, which I'll show you when we go back there. But when you export it, you will get things like a XML that's associated with it, as well as a report path for when you're importing it back in. What type of report is it? Typically the ones that if it's user-defined, it'll come as user-defined. Otherwise, the system ones are set as system. Is it enabled? Is it customized? Is it a document report? Is it a label report, coupon report, notification report, and which group does it go into? If I want to work on it, I actually need to go export, in which case we'll export the transaction receipt, and I can then go to City Access, and you'll see it goes and exports the IRT file. I've exported transaction receipt before, so it's probably going to, it'll yell at me if I do that. But then what I can do is I can go to reports down here. I can then go to designers and labels. I can then go to report designer, and I can then open the report and edit it through there. Now there is actually a reason why we have this whole export out and then import in again. It's kind of the reason I didn't export this. It's to go make you actually save a backup copy. Okay, and yes, because I know what happens is people go, yeah, no, we'll just edit this report. Yeah, we'll just quickly change it, and all of a sudden something breaks. And then, ooh, damn, this one broke. Now what? So that at least goes and make sure that the one you're working on is exported. It's not the one in the system. And when you import it back into the system, it will actually be in a working state. As well as also, you should be going and saving this at different stages as well. And you see, report not saved. Okay. Back to over here for application setup. Let me see, report manager, user-defined fields. Yes, we do support user-defined fields coming through from various systems. In Sage 300, they're called optional fields. Because as I've learned, Sage 300 seems to have its own unique lingo that it goes and it speaks when we are doing stuff. So everyone else I know is user-defined fields. So this over here would be things like if I wanted to go add a field, say this to over here, this is the customer master data. By the way, the fields that are linked through to here, these are the ones that we can look at. These are generally not, well, there's business transaction detail, business transaction. Those are generally associated with things like purchase orders and goods receipts. If you're looking to add them to sales transactions, there is another place you can go add those in. As well as if you want it for custom, there's even that, currency determination. But you see there's a lot of places we can add in user-defined fields if you want to. Next one up, give it a name. I'm going to go with, I'm going to go switch back to this one, so customer. It'll bring up the name, it'll bring up the description. Do you track the history on it or not? And can you import or export from that specific field or not? Then you can add in things like, if I want to go add a row, I need to put in a field name, description, what sort of data type can I put in, Boolean if you want a checkbox, or is it going to be something like date, time, image, or string, valid values? You can do valid value, as I'll show you valid values in the one above. Is it searchable? What is the data length? Is it display only? Or do you want it to display in results or not? And is it mandatory? And is there a pattern associated? The pattern over here is generally with regex expressions. You can Google those online. I'm not going to dive down that rabbit hole right now. If I want valid values, I can select the line, I can then click valid values, and I can add in certain valid values that I want to go put in here. So that's fine. Typically, these do go and replicate across, these do integrate across back to the ERP as well. And you see, even I get confused between replication and integration sometimes. So yeah. And that's the nice thing about having these is that you can put them in the ERP. They'll come across, they should come across to iVend. Please, once again, check your check how these things work and check what your settings are in for your ERP integrations. These will come across to iVend. iVend will then, you'll then be able to go and run reports on them if you want. And if something changes in iVend, then that change will be replicated back to the ERP, which is also very nice to make sure that everything, that data consistency is right up there, because if the data isn't consistent, well, yeah, nobody wants inconsistent data. We're not going to go look at that. That way madness lies. After that, we've got validation rules. I know, guys, this is so exciting. When you woke up this morning, you were going and saying, oh, I can't wait for Keith to go and talk to me about the validation rules in iVend. Yep, I know you've been waiting for this for some time, so I'll be quick. Right, and the entire idea with the validation rules over here is there are certain things that you can force on, that you can go force on certain fields in iVend. Now, we can't quite embed things like queries into various fields in here. There is a limit to what we can do for iVend, but if I wanted to go and say, make a field mandatory. So for instance, I want to make sure that the date of birth field is mandatory. Or if I wanted to go say, make the gender field mandatory. There you go. Make this field mandatory. It will bring up a validation rule setup. What is it? String required. Okay, that is what it automatically picks up there. If I wanted to go and set a maximum length or minimum length or set a range, length range for the field, must be between 2 and 6 characters. A similar thing over here for mobile phones. I do find this happens as well. Is people go and set up, people love going and putting in multiple mobile phones into one field for some reason. You can set patterns for the field using regex expressions. You can do that, as well as you can also go and make the field non-editable. So there are some things you can go and make non-editable, such as, for instance, you might not want to say, for instance, customer group. Well, that one's not. You'll see over there some of these change, but yeah, you can go set that over there, as well as, also got the option to view the log. So yes, and if I right-click and view log, I can go see who's changed what. As you can see, I've changed many things as we go along over here, because this is obviously my test system and I do this stuff all the time. Okay. But the important thing about the validation rules setup is once you've set the validation rules in place, you are going to need a place to go fix them if you made a boo-boo. So if you did make a mistake, you're going to need to go say over here, okay, right there. Maybe we should not, right there. Maybe we shouldn't, maybe country ID should be editable, in which case you can go edit, and yeah, you can maybe change the description if you want, but otherwise you can just go delete. Are you sure you want to delete the sector records? Yes. All right, so that's nice to have, because then you can actually go force people to have a spot where they, because then even if somebody makes a change like that, you can also stop people from getting in there and turning off the changes, which is the other thing you might want to do. After that, property caption setup. So what exactly, yeah, as you can see over here, there's a lot of them. This is basic, as you can see, it's things like the translations for different buttons, depending on what captions you're using. As you can see, there's a lot of them. So you can go change and you can edit these if you really want to. Otherwise, I would suggest don't touch. Emailing and SMS templates. Okay, you can wake up now. Now's a good time to wake up. This is actually kind of interesting. This over here is how you go and actually set up the email templates or the SMS templates for any of the notifications in the system. So, for instance, if I buy something over here in the system, what sort of email template is set up. And I've selected the wrong one. That's card transfer. Let's go with, yeah, we can do transaction receipt. There you go. Okay, so here you go. This is what it will look like. And you can see, do you want to do email? Do you want to do SMS notification? What is the subject line of the email? And then from here you can do things like, save it outside of the system, import it back in if you want. What sort of, well, if you're familiar with Word, you'll be familiar with this. You'll be familiar with the editing tools. Heck with it. You even got a thing where you can paste copy content from Word. And yes, there is a spell check as well, because trust me, if there's one thing people do not like these days is bad spelling in things like in professional emails. You know, it's okay between friends, but if you want to take, but seriously, the grammar Nazis are real, and they occur in the weirdest of places as well. So guaranteed, your email will hit a grammar Nazi at some point, at which point there will be a fuss. So rather avoid the fuss and don't do it. Rather avoid the fuss, use spell check. Or even better, do it in Word, make sure you got everything nicely worked out, and then paste it in. Headings, highlights, colors, fonts, hyperlinks. Do you want to embed a YouTube video or not? Yeah, you can do that. It's actually pretty cool. You know, that you embed a nice YouTube video and the guy opens up, yay, surprise. Tables, symbols, functions, numbered lists, all the rest of it. It is all here, including document styles you can put in. If you are HTML minded and you want to edit it directly, surprise, we cater for you too. So you too can go in and edit it in HTML and look cool to all your friends. And also the preview mode of what it should look like. Okay, now that's the email template side. Then we have the amazing, the marvelous, the incredible SMS template side. Yes, I know you are all gasping in amazement and desire to go and actually deal with this, but yes, it is here, the SMS template. As you can see, it's much simpler because it's an SMS. And something might have caught your eye on both the SMS template side and also over here on this side, and that's just this percent enterprise name, percent and percent current name, these different variables that are here. These variables are available. In fact, they're available in a list. You right-click and it will give you the list of variables that are available. It's that simple. Yeah, right there. Right-click, variable. You see, we do think about you and we care. So that is there. You can write now using this, you can go swiftly and amazingly write your own beautiful email and SMS templates in the time it takes me to have a sip of coffee. There we go. But yeah, so that's there, guys. You can take it, you can edit it, you can do whatever you want with it. It is there and done. But once you've created it, you might be asking, well, how do I go and trigger it? How do I go and get these things sent? Well, we actually do have a question. Ian asks, can customers send messages to each other via the iVend platform? No. Okay, just to be careful, just to be clear, this is not a messaging platform. This is, we're not WhatsApp. Well, okay, let me see. We're not WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, SMS, email, yeah, Instagram, anything like that. What's the other one? Telegram. Anyway, they're right there. Telegram, Minds. There's like zillions of these things out there. The short answer is no. The long answer is no, because if you already have SMS, you're going to go and you can send that stuff on to your own friends at your own time. So there's no, we don't see a reason to go reinvent the wheel. Just yeah. Okay, moving up next, how do I actually go send these things of grace and beauty out into the world? And one of the ways you can do it is with the schedule setup. Now, this actually has got a couple of really neat little party tricks it does. Okay, and I'll point those out as we go through. Up at the top, we have the report. We have the report side, or are you going to send a report, or are you going to send a query, or are you going to send something on a campaign? Now, I'm going to start off with report. If you select type report, it's going to take a report from the system, one of them over here. In fact, if I go across to over here, I go there, I click on the list, it brings me up a list of the reports in the system, and I can choose exactly which report it is going to go and send on this email. Okay, and when it sends that report, it will send it through as a PDF. Yes, that's right, correct, as a PDF. It doesn't send it through as like a Word or, you know, embedded hyperlink or whatever it is. It is actually just a PDF that gets sent along with the email. When I send the query selection over here, this will be sent, you'll see over here, I bring up the list and you can see all the queries that I have in the system, which we will get to how you write those a bit later. The queries will be sent through as a, quite literally as a, well, it'll be sent through as an Excel spreadsheet. So that's just nice to go and actually get it, and you can edit it, and I believe it comes out as XLS, but yeah, these days that XLS, XLSX, you can open it up with just about any spreadsheet editing tool there is. Run on request. Now we actually get to some, well, actually before we go to run on request, the last one is campaign. Now campaign actually allows me to go and send out, allows me to go and send off a campaign of emails out. That's something that we can actually go work on to go and actually have it, that is something that we can actually have sent. So you can go basically load up and say, I want to go send an email off to all these different people. The campaign, if I'm doing a campaign, then I can actually go select an email template that will actually be sent off, and that's where the email and SMS templates that we were dealing with earlier can come in. Okay, I'm going to go switch back to a report because that's just cool. Moving on is run on request. Now this is actually one of the really nice things that we do have. Run on request, and depending on which, this does work only with specific SMS gateways. It doesn't work with all SMS gateways that we are integrated through to. Of course, if you want to write your own integration through to SMS gateways and it does have this functionality, then, well, yeah, you can do that using extensibility. The run on request over here essentially means that I can SMS a keyword. So let's go sales store 1. So let's go say that that's the SMS keyword. I can SMS that keyword through the SMS gateway to the iVend system, and then it will go and it will trigger this setup to run. So for instance, if I go sales store 1, I can choose that it will then go and send through the report for the sales for store 1 for that day. So quite literally send that off, and it will go and trigger either the email, or it will send the email out, or if I've done a query, one of the other things with the query I can do is if I format the response correctly, it will actually come back as an SMS to me. So we've got options. I don't really want to spend too much else on here because there is we've got a fair bit to do, and I want to get to some of the financials before we carry on. Beyond that, scheduling, guys, do I really need to explain how the scheduling works? I mean, you guys should have an idea of that. Here at the Sensata, what Chikla? Okay, all right. I presume I'm going to do that. Assume the report size does vary as more info is fed into the system. Does iVend have an option to zip the report for smaller sizes? No, it won't auto zip the report. Not that I know of. Though to be honest, at the end of the day, when you're spitting out it's not the kind of level of resolution that you're looking at for the PDF. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that big. Yeah. Well, you know, it's one of those questions. I don't think that we've really encountered that problem yet. That it is a problem of size for that. Look, there are options. If it was necessary, I'm sure we could do something, but I don't think that we've really actually had the option to go or had the need to go and zip the report. As well, I've found that sometimes zipping PDFs doesn't actually really reduce the size that much. Yeah, that's just the way zip works, but for the moment, we haven't had a problem with that. Recurrence, repeat, well, okay, so scheduling, you can do everything from for every minute to up to every year, or otherwise for every certain period and interval type you want. Which weekdays, start date, start time, how often do you want it to run to, repeat times, end date and end time. Yeah, that's up to you to select. For this, then you can select your email template, email from, to CC subject and what you want in the body. After that, you can import, yes, you can import data into iVend. All right, they are very, essentially it is imported via an Excel spreadsheet. You can import in quite a lot of the stuff over here. There's a number of things you can do, including promotions, accounts receivable, user-defined tables, information, historical transactions, UAM groups. There's a batch of stuff you can import in. Does the file have a header or not? Yes or no. If you wanted to go and if you want to go and import stuff in, there are specific templates you can use. To find them, you go to your C drive, you go to program files, you go to, where is it, City Access, you go to, well, in my case, it's iVend Demo Stack. In your case, well, in production environments, we iVend Retail, but you open up that, you then go to your management console, you then go to import templates, and there's all your import templates. You can open those up, and then you can go and get them imported in. And by the way, it does include tooltips for each of the specific fields that are over there. So, and it, this top line as well as an example line. So there you go. That is available as well. And by the same token, you can also export data from the system for pretty much all the same things. Yeah, as soon as you ask your question, I will answer it. Alert notification view. You can get other alerts that are in the system, not just through the schedule manager. There are other system alerts that run. As well down here, you'll see I've got a notifications too. I can click that. It opens up exactly the same screen. With this, I can then select it, view the purchase order. And then if I can even drill down to the purchase order itself. Okay, who's got their hand up? Okay, here we got Nana G. Nana G asks, do we have help for import template information? Yes, that is in the tooltips that's there. Those, as well as the example information that's there, you should be able to go see and work it out from that. Obviously, guys, look, if you do have problems, then that's what manager consulting LPEs like me are there for. You can call us, and I'm sure the person in your region will be more than happy to help you out. Just remember, it's you should be able to work it out fairly straightforward. If you are still having an issue, call us. I'm sure we'll help you out for that. Or just look on the CKP, and I'm sure it will also help you. You'll be able to find something from there. Okay. After that, so that's the alert notification view, which you can get through here as well. But you can also do alert notification setup. There are certain presets in the system that you can have notifications on. For instance, over here, if on purchase orders, stock transfer shipments, prices changes, coupon creations, bonus buy creations, la 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 la. There's POS going offline. All these can be set over here. You can even do one for a query. And is it active? Do you have an email SMS template associated with it? What sort of query is sent? And then also who gets the alerts? Is it for all users? Is it just for some users? Is it for specific users in a specific store? Is it for, do they get an application alert, SMS alert, or email alert? And then also, what is the schedule? If you are doing the query, it will ask you for a schedule, okay, because that's obviously going to run every, well, whatever you set it to, however often you want that. If you do something like purchase order, you'll see it doesn't have the schedule option over there, because then it will automatically pick up and it will send from the system. All right. Okay, so we've got 15 minutes and we can just quickly have a look at financials. Now, let's see if we can get through this in time. So the financials over here, for instance, currency, okay, typically things like currencies will come through from the ERP system. That's part of the integration setup. You can then open it up. And the one thing I would like to point out is that the culture information over here on what we term the base currency, the base currency being the currency that your system operates in by default. The base currency culture information needs to be the same as what is listed in the enterprise setups over here. One more question is, Armand, I'm told that it should be on the CKP. If it's not there, then drop me a mail and I will try to get it uploaded to something like a Google Drive or something like that, and everyone can download it from. Yeah. The currency over here, so your currencies will generally come through. You will select a base currency, which is the currency throughout the base currency of the system. You can have as many currencies as you want. There's no limit to the number of currencies you can have, and you can have those ones loaded in. Like I said, they generally come through from the ERP, and generally in the ERP you'll select your base. You've got your base currency set. We just copy that over. However, once here in the currency, there is something else that you can add, which is what we call details. Now, the detail of this is, for instance, if it's dollars, it'll be something like 1 cent. Okay, 1 cent, 2 cents, etc. 2 cent, 5 cent, 5 cents, 10 cents. I think you can see where I'm going with this. You can put in the details of this if you want to do what's called a detailed count. And that means that you want to go say, I have got 10 25-cent pieces, or I've got 10 $1 bills in the system. You can then type that in. The system then goes and says, okay, that means that you must have this amount of money. Typically, for most of the places I see, they don't do that. They just count up the money and they tell the system, we've got $531 or whatever it might be in the till. So if you want to go that way, we can have the detailed stuff in. Typically, I don't see that happening a lot, specifically in the regions that I work, primarily because in some of the places I work, you end up with like hundreds of thousands of whatever currency it is, and there's just no point in going and keeping track of the smaller bits. So you can do that if you want. Otherwise, you don't have to. After that, exchange rates. If you do set multiple currencies, you do need to set the exchange rate. If you are integrated into an ERP, we will pull the ERP exchange rate. Okay. You can also go set a to date and a from date. So for instance, if I want to just go say that will be from there to there, right? I can then go set the exchange rate as say 1.5, and then just go copy exchange rate, and it will copy it all the way down. If I want to do forward loading. Once again, however, if you're integrated through, it will pull that through automatically. After that, we finally get down to payment types. So let's quickly go through this. Actually, I might leave this for tomorrow. No. Actually, guys, I think I might leave this for tomorrow. Well, I'll leave payment types for tomorrow. Let's go through tax codes, which we did see earlier, and how to set those up. There's also what we term tax events. Now, a tax event is, okay, here we go from Louise. For every transaction made, does it automatically update itself on the ledger and all reports that have been? Yes. Yeah, it's an automatic system, Louise. It will automatically update everything as it goes along. Okay, so for tax events, what you can have is, like for instance, I believe in Dubai at the moment they have a special tax for the for Expo, whatever it is. It's a big World's Fair type effort thingy they're having, where for certain things, if you go there and you're a foreigner, you are paying like a tax and then an extra tax because, hey, nobody, government doesn't get enough money anyway. So what you can do is what we term a tax event, you can go say, okay, for certain customers or customer groups or product groups, there is a extra tax that is associated with them for a period of time. Then after that, if you really need to get crazy on your tax, welcome to the iVend tax condition setup, where we can really go get down to the finer details of exactly what tax is in every place. First off, you can do a subsidiary. Well, like I said, we will come to subsidiaries tomorrow, probably at the rate we're going. Then you can say which business partners you're doing. Well, is it against a partner? Is it against a specific product type or product group? And by the way, for business partner, is it a customer group, vendor, or vendor group? So is it a specific product or product class or product group, a specific, then is there a minimum price? Is there a maximum price? And then you can start getting to some of the really strange things you can do, including saying, okay, for this ship to state, country, city, you can then have a different tax value on it. Afterwards, you can also go say for an attribute. So an attribute being, say, for instance, a specific color. So you can go say for all of the black shoes that up there above a certain size, you're going to get a different tax. You can pay as well. Say what is your different fine field, specific users of fine field product. Yeah, you can really get crazy all the way down to from this date to that date. To the time, and for then you will end up getting a specific tax. Yeah, and we refined it even more with 6.6. There is even more tax. So effectively on this tax condition setup, you can store and ships it to that place at that time and the product is a black product, that's a large, a black product large with a specific value that's associated, then he will get that tax code. So yes, it's guys. Audio connection restored. Okay, guys, can you hear me now? Hello, guys, can you hear me? Ah, there we go. Okay. All right, so sorry about that, guys. I do not know what happened. All of a sudden, it just said that you've got no internet. Okay, so that's actually taken us right up to the point of, well, to the end of this. Okay, let me just go down to the bottom over here. Okay, now you can hear me. Okay, well, so sorry about that, guys. That was actually a bit of an issue. Guys, if I can, there is one last thing I want to say. Yeah, I'm gonna have to sign off now anyway. I do want to actually go say that, yeah, I don't know how much of the tax condition setup you got. I will go over that tomorrow. But we will probably be starting a little bit late tomorrow because I have got a prior meeting that quite literally runs up to, well, 10 o'clock my time. Because of that, it does mean that we will probably be starting only around about 10:30 or there, but I will update everyone as we go along just to be sure that, what's going on. I will probably start everything at I will probably start everything at 10, but then I will tell everyone that we're going to be just waiting for, say, about half an hour just to go get everything, just to go make sure that I've finished up everything else. Okay, all right, so thank you very much, guys. If there are any questions, please let me know. If not, then I will try and if you think of something later, like I can see a lot of people did, I will then go and answer them tomorrow. Here we go. I will, Nanaji, I would rather you get it, or it's like I said, it's on the City Access Knowledge Portal. I prefer you get it from there. That is probably going to be a better place to go and actually download it from. I believe it's the one training presentation that's it's in the document store, if I remember correctly. So you should be able to download it from there. If you can't find it, okay, so we'll be starting half an hour later. So whatever the time is that we normally start, it will be starting half an hour later than that. I'm still going to start the presentation. I'm still going to start the webinar at that time. I'm just going to go say, no, we're going to go start. I'll just say that we're holding off until half an hour or so. Okay, but I will try and, hopefully it won't be half an hour. Hopefully it'll be quicker than that. But I will see how quickly we can get things, going. All right. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Have a good one, and we will chat again soon tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. All right. Cheerio, guys. Bye.